Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name's Anthony and in today's video I'm going to go over something that has been requested quite a bit, and that is factory specs. Now a lot of people have come to me and said, what are factory specs and how do I lay them out and what is the right information to put on these factory specs? Well, I'm going to go through all of that today and talk about a few different kind of layouts. But before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help my channel to grow. Please also leave a comment. I want to chat to you guys and build this fashion community up and get together and have a bit of a chat. Alright, okay, let's get started. First of all, what is a factory spec? A factory spec is something that is used in design to communicate with suppliers and factories and tell them exactly what you want to do in a design in a format that the suppliers are familiar with so they can start producing the garments. Now every company works slightly different and every spec sheet is slightly different, but there are key things that need to be included on every single one, which is a drawing, measurements, detailed annotations, and a BOM, which means a bill of materials. I'm just going to start by showing you some of my specs. So let's just get right into it. Okay, so this is one of my specs. As you can see, it's laid out in quite a detailed way. The first thing that you'll notice is that the drawing is in black and white and it is color coded. You've got white, grey, a dark grey and a blue to signify the different materials that are on this garment. You've also got annotations that are in red, and now this is pointing out all the different details on the garment. So it's got a contrast zip pull, it's got a rubber branded patch on the pocket, it's got patch pockets with asymmetric flaps, it's got fleece main body, and collar is to be bound DTM nylon. Now if you noticed on this card, there is a section at the top that kind of tells the supplier the style references, the date that it was designed, the fits, the style names, the trend that it goes with, and the supplier. It's also got a little section saying registered design by Anthony Pullin, and then it's signed by the designer as well. And then if you notice as well at the bottom is kind of the BOM or the bill of materials. And there are a few different ways of laying out a BOM. This is way one. I'll show you another way in a bit, but it basically goes through the color, the main body color, the trim color, the trim 2, trim 3, zip tape and teeth, lining and branding, and it kind of lays out which materials go where, and it's actually really useful for the suppliers to have this on the design spec. And then finally on the first page you have kind of a section at the side and it goes through measurements and constructions and then design details. Similar to your annotations, you write out your design details, but you can be more thorough in this section if you want to. And then there's also a materials key where it says what each particular colour is referring to, and that links up with your BOM at the bottom. So that's the first page. The second page that I always do is a colour sheet, so the suppliers can see the colours that are laid out and it matches to the BOM, so they can see the kind of colour combinations that you've got and they can make sure that they're making it correctly. If you notice at the top and bottom, there are also the panels with all the same information that's on the previous page, and there's actually a way of making this automatically update. So if you click into one and update one thing, all of them update, and that's called a symbol on Illustrator. Now if you want to know how to do that, give this video a big thumbs up and I can do a video on how to make symbols on Illustrator. Now this sheet kind of just lays out the colour combinations and shows the supplier what the colours are and how they should be laid out. Now on the third sheet, this is the detail and technical sheet. As you can see, this is where all of the information when it comes to measurements are, and also at the company that I used to work at, we used to put the block information on as well. At most places you don't put the block information on the actual spec sheet, but I always found it useful rather than sending out a few different documents. And as you can see again at the top and bottom, the information is still there, and if you zoom into the actual garment, you can see all the different measurements, whether it be the neck detail, the side neck point to the top of the pocket. It shows you the pocket measurements. It also shows you the size of the waist pocket and all of the kind of details there. But this is basically all the measurements and everything like that. The final page for me is the internals. If it's a basic garment, sometimes you wouldn't put the internals, but in most cases you have to put the internals, especially if you're designing for a brand. A lot of the times the brand has signature internals that you would like to make sure that is followed through and all the branding details are there. So on this, for example, I've just put a few annotations with a back neck loop, the quilted internal and the internal wallet pocket. It also has a material split out as well, so you can see that the main is the black lining and then the trim 3 is the nylon quality as well. This is also where I put a few more bits of information about the branding patches that we've put on, so the colorways and all of that. I've also put the scale for the quilting, and as you notice again, it's got the top and bottom section for the BOM and all the information that is required for this garment. Now, as I say, this is just one way of laying out a factory spec. Each company works slightly different. I've worked at places where you have to hand draw it and then input all your information in Excel. But this is a very formulaic way of laying out your spec. Now, I do have another example and I'm going to show you that now. This is a sketch sheet that is used from a previous brand that I used to work at. And as you can see, rather than splitting it out with a different page for your measurements and a different page for your annotations, this is actually all on one page, and it's actually color coded with yellow and white. Now, we used yellow because when we were in the factories and we were working abroad, we used to take highlighters with us, so we'd hand sketch quickly and then we'd highlight over the sections that were going to be a different material, which actually was a really good idea, and I'm going to adopt going forward because I actually think it's a really clever way of laying out your CADs. Now, as you can see, it says design sketches, it says pages 1 of 3, it's got the front, the back, and it's also got a zoomed in section. This is obviously for a bag, and it also has the measurements for the shoulder strap. It also has all the annotations, and we put all of our annotations in black for our first spec. And as we went through the design process and made changes and we adapted the design to make it better, we would change the color on different sections. So for example, a measurement might turn into red, and then something else might change to green, and something might change to orange to signify to the supplier that that has actually changed. And there's actually a section in this CAD where it says First Amendments, Second Amendments, Thirds, Fourth, all the way to Sixth. Now, as you notice on this, at the bottom is all the information that the supplier needs for the season, the customer, the supplier, style number, the range names, the internals. So at the brand that I worked at, they had a set internal layout. So all you had to do was write internals 1, internals 2, internals 3, and the supplier would know to make sure that the internals match whatever that internals 1, 2, and 3 might be. Now, as we move on to the next page, this is actually the color layout page, and you see that there's 5 different colors, and the supplier can then see that this is the way that you want it laid out. Not much to talk about on this page, but the final page is the BOM, which is the bill of materials. Now, if you notice on this, it is laid out completely different than the other one, whereas the bill of materials was on every single page. This is just on the final page, because what we used to do is not only did we have one bag on the spec sheet, we could have 5 different bags and they would all match within a family, so it would all follow the same BOM. So rather than writing it out 5 or 6 different times on different spec sheets, you write it out once, which makes it far more efficient in my opinion, and this is something that I am going to adopt going forward as well. So this is what I mean, every single company that you work at, you learn and upgrade and you make your skills better and you adapt what you can do and you bring it into new companies, which is really exciting in my opinion. And that is one of the best things about moving around and moving to different companies, because you never know what you can learn at each company. So as I say, on the BOM for this section, it kind of goes through the season, the range name, all of that sort of stuff. It's page 3 of 3. And it also goes through the style, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5. It goes through the main body and the material that is on the main body and the colours. It also goes through the lining and the colour there. It goes through the thread, the edge paint, the hardware colour, the zip, whether it be metal or nylon, and the colours below is all self. Then you have external branding. So this is where the yellow comes in, or a different colour potentially. You might have 3 or 4 different trim colours, and this is where you would highlight it in yellow and let the supplier know what that material is. So overall, they are factory specs. Now, these are the factory specs that I've worked on in the past, and as I say, multiple companies have different ways of working when it comes to factory specs. Some people lay it out differently, but all the information that you need to communicate in these factory specs is the same no matter what company you go for, which is you need a drawing, you need the measurements, you need the annotations, and you need the BOM. So that's it for the factory specs. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to click that beautiful red subscribe button down below. Please also leave a comment. Did you like this video? Is there any other kind of fashion related topics that you want me to go into but you're not quite sure about, let me know in the comment section below. Please also check out my Etsy shop where you can buy cards and vectors to help support you in your everyday design life. And it really helps to support this channel. Alright, okay, thanks for watching. Right, bye. Tra tra tra. Bye.